I'd like to call to order the Committee on Planning, Community Planning and Economic Development. Today is Tuesday, May 12th, 2026. The time is 4:01 p.m. We'll start with the chairperson's roll call. I am Julius Oliver, First Ward City Councilman and Chair, and to my left,
Pat Kelly, Fifth Ward Vice Chair.
Isaac Finance.
Adam Bentley, Law Department.
The main kitchen, CPED.
Stephanie Gilchrist, Economic Development.
Jen Ozinger, Economic Development. Erica Avery, Community CPED.
Mary Crougham with the Youngstown Renters Association, and I'm also Seventh Ward resident.
David Skolnick, the Vindicator.
Steve Rostek, CPED.
Rich Harvey, Finance.
Wendy Robinson, Community Development.
Beverly Nosey, Community Development.
Don Montero, Community Development.
Jeff Kurz, owner of Whiskey Limited, Sports Kurz Investments, Rise Craft Beer Whiskey Bar, and Imbibe Martini Bar downtown, and I'm a law practice.
Nova Community Development. Robert Duke, Law Department.
Joe Fritz, Law Department.
Stan Bundy, WKBN.
Alex Sorrell, WKBN.
Michael Needham, WFMJ.
Mayor Derek McDowell.
Jonathan Huff, Mayor's Office.
Valencia Merrill, City Clerk.
okay. Item number 2 under new business, ordinance 26-121.
Through the chair, I'll just start. What I handed you, this piece is the Exalt piece that we all know was on the agenda, but just by way of narrative, we talked about the need to have shovel-ready, projects in preparation for things. I think it was pretty timely that Lake the River sent this to our office about a property inquiry. We get inquiries all the time. Of course, we're out making our own inquiries in terms of what people are looking for in terms of land and buildings and so on and so forth. But this came to us from Lake the River, and I just wanted to share pretty much as an example of the need for shovel-ready property. They received a request for 100,000 plus square foot building, and it lists all the requirements of what they're looking for, whatever. But essentially on the back where it says, if you're aware of any property that meets the requirements and would like it to be considered as a potential location for this investment, please reply to this email, blah, blah, blah. But we get these from a lot of our partners, Lake the River, from the state. And again, it goes back to our reason for doing what we do in terms of trying to prepare as much land as possible. So just wanted to share that by way of narrative. But then I'll turn it over to Cal, who can offer explanation on the actual ordinance that is in committee.
Yeah, I know we've been assembling land for quite some time, trying to have shovel-ready properties. So with this current project or investment going into this property, I know there was a lot of confusion last time on what was actually happening here or why we chose this particular spot to invest, almost $2 million. So is that Kyle?
To the chair. So this ordinance was put up after we had met with a potential investors who have found a site in Youngstown off of XL Court, which is behind the old Exterior. We have a R&E pool out in front. So we have 12 acres, well, almost 12.1 acres of land that sits behind that site. It is land that meets the requirements for redevelopment, but unfortunately, because of the way the property is sloped, there is no way to get utilities back there based on the current sanitary line that's in place. So to develop that 12 acres, we need to bring sewer, water, and electricity to that site. We have an engineering bid that was put together by MS Consultants. That cost us $50K. Council gave us the authority to go out and utilize them to put together these plans. We believe that this project's going to come in under $1.9 million when it is bid. But I'll give you a little more background without going into too much detail. The property is appraised at $205,000. So the city owns that property. Any improvements that we make on that site, the property value is going to increase. So when we've had somebody come to the table and who talks about wanting to redevelop the site, of course, they're going to need these utilities. Unfortunately, to move ahead with the project and them to pay for that is going to, in essence, make it difficult for them to actually make an investment in the project. By us making these improvements and increasing the value of the property, we get to charge that party when we actually sell this land potentially. In addition, we're going to be able to generate water revenue, wastewater revenue. We're going to install the new pump station, which will then provide enough what is required to move water and waste through this area and be able to tap it again if there's area, because there's another 25 acres. That is not the most perfect property to redevelop, but there is the potential. But these 12 acres, and with the entity that is looking to use it, we believe that we will see a return on this investment in less than 6 years. And there's a probability for further expansion on the site if the entity goes forward with what it views as its a second ancillary redevelopment of additional property within the same footprint. They're talking about maybe using half of it up front, and then dependent upon how well their investment materializes, that they would then utilize the additional space which this pump station and water line and utilities would support. So here we have an area that, as we have at Lake to River, if we don't make this investment, this is property that is going to sit and be underutilized. By us bringing utilities to the site, we are going to generate water revenue, wastewater revenue, and potential income tax. And if we sell the property, we're going to then be able to generate money to put in the business development fund that we can then use for reinvestment in other projects. That is why we'd like council to support this particular ordinance and allow us to go out to bid this project and hopefully come back to you and awarding it at a lower value than what it's been appraised at.
So, right before you go, Pat, so this isn't a new project this is something that we've been working on for a little bit of time now, right?
Through the chair, we've been working on it for about 6 months.
And it seems as though it's going to be a pretty significant use of water at the site. So there's going to be a pretty niche thing going on for a company to utilize, for us to be able to put this much more money into water and wastewater infrastructure, correct?
Through the chair, I mean, when you consider a 12-acre site that potentially could be redeveloped, and I'm not sure what the square usage of, and Domain may have that information. We're talking about some large buildings that are going to go on 12 acres. So for the kind of fire utility service that needs to be in place, the amount of water, wastewater, and the pump station also being able to assist with further expansion, even though the site outside of those 12 acres isn't ideal, we could potentially do something by bringing in, there's always the opportunity. But this 12 acres is perfect for a project as long as we put this infrastructure in, that site is going to be utilized.
So the pump station is going to be not just for this project, but future projects to come as well.
The pump station is going to provide additional, Chuck, what's the right wording for what the pump station is going to do for that site and the area around it?
Through the chair, the pump station will allow public sanitary service to any developable land, not only just 12 acres, but any of the surrounding land past that cul-de-sac.
Pat?
Through the chair. So, Kyle, maybe you can answer this, or Domain. I know you can't tip your hand on what's coming in there, but what happens if we have to have public forums? So we're okaying this 1.9 million without us knowing what's in there. And is there a potential to have public forums for this business to come in? Or
Through the chair, think about how Salt Springs Road, what you have on Salt Springs Road today. In the past, that was all vacant. David Bozanich in prior administrations used brownfield grants to, in essence, put in these sewer lines and water lines to for, in essence, to attract business. We have 12 acres that is sitting ready. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the services that are required. This is the right use of public funds to extend sanitary service lines. This is how we generate additional wastewater money, water money. We have to make this site available. And with having a party that is very interested, and they're aware that the appraised property is at 206,000, the appraisal is going to go up. We can't sell this property for less than its appraised. So we're definitely going to get a return on our investment. Is it going to equal what we have to invest to start this? No. But down the road, on the return on the water, waste, and income tax, it will eventually pay for itself. And then we will make a site that right now currently is vacant. It'll now be a active property generating property tax also for the county.
Right, I get that. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, what Pat is saying, that without knowing exactly what the development there is or who the developer is or what the project is, what if it's something that the community doesn't want? Is that what you're saying? Will we be having public forums to be able to say whether this is, because I think what he's saying is we don't know what the project is. We know we have to invest money into the property to make it shovel ready for, companies to be able to come and set up shop. But am I right?
Yeah.
Pat?
Yes. Through the chair, any sale or lease of real estate has to be approved by 2/3 of the members of city council. So when it is time to consummate that transaction, it'll be.
So when it's time to
before
be an
city
actual project, you'll bring it to us and say, this is the developer, this is the company, this is, okay, Domain?
Yeah, I was gonna say that very thing, but in addition to that, we're looking at up to 200,000 square feet of space being built on that site. So we're looking at an option of multiple users, not just one. And so, again, when it's time to announce an actual project, it's definitely gonna come back, before the legislative body.
Right now, we're being proactive.
Right.
Kyle?
And through the chair, it is zoned for light industrial manufacturing. It can only be light industrial manufacturing going in on that site. So it's not going to be something that's going to be disruptive to the environment. It has to meet those expectations and requirements, and this particular project does. So yes, there's not a form in place right now, but we're not talking about doing anything that's going to be have an issue with noise or with pollution. We're talking about a project that we think meets all the criteria that would be a win-win for the city.
Anything else, Pat?
Nope.
Thank you for that information. That definitely helps us be able to make a decision on the council floor. Guess we can move on unless there's anything else to add to it. We can move on to update on the chill camp property.
Yeah, through the chair, as you all know, we did an open house.
I'm sorry, before we,
Oh, no, go ahead.
I'd like to respect the councilman in that ward. He's been briefed on what we've been briefed on just now. Mr. Ray.
Under that XL piece,
Yes.
I was expecting Councilman Ray to be here today since we had it in committee to discuss it.
You're right. Okay, continue. Chill camp.
Under the Chill Camp property, as you all know, we did an open house. I believe it was the last weekend in May, on a Saturday and Sunday. A lot of foot traffic came through. Been a lot of interest, as you all can imagine. Some we're still vetting. There's a lot of ideas, I'll say, that came out of that open house. And so what we would like to do, again, with council support and obviously the mayor's blessing, we're hopeful to pretty much put a plan together to do RFP to see who's really, serious about a potential project there. We have a lot of interest from different sectors, different ranges across the board, but there's nothing imminent, but there's been a lot of interest. Just wanted to say that it went well. The community got a chance to come in and see it, all three buildings in their current state and condition. And I think that really helped some folks who may have thought, it could be something,
Right.
but to see it firsthand, now you realize, okay,
get a real understanding
It's
of what's.
just a reality that kind of kicked in when you see it for yourself. And so, but that is still a high priority for us. We're actively seeking, end users for that. Thank you to yourself and Councilman Hughes, who were also in attendance and supported that.
Well, thank you guys and administration for opening it up to the public, to putting it out there so people can see it. His next bullet point is, if you're done.
I'm
Just
done.
kidding. Next thing would be the overview of JAC's management contract. Reason I'm bringing this up is basically we're getting a lot of questions from some of the downtown businesses on events or lack of events going on at the Cavelli Center and the amphitheater Wayne Park. So what is basically an overview of what we have mandated or expect from JAC when it comes to our facilities? I know when we first got the Cavelli Center, I wasn't around when it was the Chevy Center. But when we first got it, I guess this whole area was designated as an arts and entertainment district, which businesses expected to be able to benefit from those events coming to the downtown often. And some people are a little upset that we aren't having as many events this year as in prior years. I know that JAC, working with the events coordinator, have just released like 11 events that'll be coming. And Eric just briefed me on that today. So just an overall brief of what is our mandate from the city's perspective when it comes to our buildings.
I mean, through the chair, I brought copies if you would like a copy of the agreement. There's only two of you, so I'll pass them down. It was originally a 5-year term. There's a new 5-year renewal that goes until end of the year 27. In summary, JAC receives a commission for food and beverage sales. They receive various percentages for operation of the Cavelli Center. They receive various percentages for operation of the amphitheater. After that, there's, Kyle will explain this more eloquently than I will. There's a incentive fee of the net operating income. The city keeps 75% of that. The JAC keeps 25% of that. Obviously, this was before I was even at the city, but my general appreciation is that the agreement is there to incentivize the most amount of events and everything possible. The terms that JAC has, they must maintain the facilities and employ and supervise personnel, oversee the vendors, collect revenues, and then maintain records and financials. And that includes our ability to audit their books. On the city's behalf, we obviously own the facilities. We receive the incentive fee that I discussed. All capital improvements must be authorized by the city. And we have essentially we have the right to audit the books whenever we want. So just the general thrust of the agreement seems to be for JAC to make as much revenues as possible. And if there's net operating income, the city and JAC split that. So I'll explain a little further. Cal?
For the chair, the mandate from day one is do not lose money, provide much opportunity for the community to come down and be entertained by events. But the last thing that the city wants to do is be required to make any cash infusion into the building, because at the end of the day, the building needs to be self-sufficient. That was the first required mandate, so that as profits were generated, we used those profits along with the money that was collected through the admissions tax to pay down the debt service that was taken out on the building to cover the completion of the construction. 3 years ago, I believe it was, we were able to actually pay off that debt with profits and with admission tax collections from JAC operating the two facilities on our behalf. To this day, the mandate is still the same. What's happening now with those excess monies that are generated through the admissions tax, we are now reinvesting back into the building. Council approved over $1 million improvement to update the roof. We have been addressing other issues as things have aged out at the building. Anytime that we have a large capital expenditure, council typically asks questions and we require your approval, and you have provided that approval. Yes, there has been, and last year was an example of a change in how this industry operates. I think a combination of weather, trying to lure smaller entertainers to our market was not as successful as it had been in the past. You saw that reflected in the year-over-year financials. Those losses will be offset by the profits that were earned in 2024 and 2023. We are on a 2-year cycle where the facility makes payments for those profits to the city. So this way we do not extract all of the cash from the building on an annual basis, then would have no operating capital. So what we will end up doing on our books, we will be offsetting this year's 2025 loss against the 2023 and 2024 profit. We will be coming out, I believe it's going to be this weekend, highlighting how, again, it had to do with timing, how the building in this first quarter made quite a large chunk of income. This was all as a result of Disney changing its normal scheduled event at the facility in December and moving it to January. That led to the large fourth quarter loss in the building. It's a timing issue, but it is what it is, and those books are being audited right now. We have an outside third party that audits those each year, and then they report back to me what their findings. We have had no findings of any reason for recovery, and we have paid off the facility utilizing the economic model that I developed, and it has proven that it works. It's just, unfortunately, industry standards or industry touring practices have changed, and we saw the impact of that in 2025. We are taking a different approach this year with the new administration, with David coming on as the events coordinator. There's a better synergy between the coordination of JAC and the city working together with events coming to the amphitheater, and also with potential expansion of things happening down underneath and utilizing the park more extensively, as council has been hopeful with some of the infrastructure improvements that we've made. And we are hopeful that those things are going to start to materialize with the new administration and the new direction that Eric and David are working together in to bring more events downtown.
So, in the meantime, when it comes to a loss, I know according to every time I have a conversation with Eric, he tells me he's not allowed to leave, basically. So our only recourse is basically offsetting the bad years for the good years. Okay.
Yes, through the chair. I mean, we have not shown David Skolnick has been putting, I'm trying to remember the last time there was a year-over-year operating deficit.
2007.
So from 2007 until 2024, we had 17 years where the building made money. And remember, the building made money in 2025, the admissions tax. We collected over $300,000. So even though the operating profit of the building was a loss, the admissions tax paid to the city that gets deposited into the Covelli Center Fund, that fund is sitting on over $900,000. And most of that is going to be used this year to pay for the new construction of the storage building that is going to be going up on the site to the left-hand back corner of the facility, because the facility has been, or JAC has been asking for years, we need to store our basketball system, all of our machinery, and we're finally, with the profits that have been paid in the past, along with the admissions tax, have in place enough after paying down the debt to actually pay to construct this facility. I don't know if you've been over there, but the steel is all on site for the building. Anise, I can't remember how to pronounce her last name. What's Anise's last name?
Neither.
Architecture the plans are all finished. Thank you, I apologize. Yes, so we're about to start that. So it's important to remember that, yes, the building did lose income in 2024. Sorry, 2025. That was the first time in 17 years. So it has been very profitable, which we have been able to turn those profits around and use down to pay down the debt service. And we no longer, we own that facility outright. We have nothing on it, and we've just made those improvements on the roof. So the hope is to continue to maintain this facility so that we get another 25 years out of it and are able to hopefully lure additional entertainers and people downtown so that they get the opportunity to experience coming to an event and enjoying the services and the restaurants that downtown offers.
So record to reflect, Councilwoman McWilson has entered the meeting. So Kyle, I'm not saying that we need to have or need to go out and look for another management company, but does the city have a backup plan at all? Or is JAC the only game in town for the city of Youngstown?
Through the chair, we initially, before we hired JAC, we had done an RFQ. And that was, I believe, in 2009 or 10. We had national companies come to the table, all willing to take over our facility. But what we learned when we initially entered into the agreement for the facility to be built was any entity that would operate and run it would siphon off ancillary monies to sister entities. And that is why the building was unsuccessful in its first few operating years, because money that was being generated was then being used to pay other entities for services being provided. By bringing in-house all of those services with one local business, we were able to modify that model so that the building could actually make profit and pay down its debt. We could potentially go back out and do another RFQ if council does, when we bring back, if the administration chooses not to want to renew its a contract with JAC. But I think the record shows that JAC has proven that it knows how to operate, it knows how to maintain, and it knows how to bring shows to the facility because it is proven and it has gone out and created its own word of mouth as being a reliable entertainment company. And most of the obstacles that you have to overcome in this industry is being able to prove that you can deliver. And JAC has done that on a massive level with some of the shows that they have. What is happening has nothing to do with JAC not being able to get shows to come to the building. It is a change at the entertainment level where the big companies are wanting bands to play gigantic arenas. And unfortunately, we are a small market. And so it means that Eric and his team have to dig deeper and work harder to lure those shows. But one of the things that we've learned in this marketplace, and that's what I think there's going to be a change in this administration, the mayor is pivotal lead in this, was we look at what's going on in Warren and we look at how their amphitheater or their venue has lured more of a more local type of events. And so that's part of the change this year between Ween, Eric, and David. And I believe that they've rolled out this schedule of 11 events. We're taking a different approach this year, and our hope is that by including businesses, we're going to be able to give back to them at the same time of hopefully trying to convince the public to come down and to experience what downtown has to offer.
And you guys had to increase the federal plaza budget for that?
Through the chair, no. I think that yes, through the chair, but I don't think it was for that purpose. I think we increased the budget because we ended up having to adjust it in the reconciliation budget at the end of 2025. So what we rolled out in 2026 is almost exactly what we spent in 2025.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, yeah, and I'm not saying that we need to look for a replacement for JAC. What I'm saying is if you see things going in a different direction, usually need to have a backup plan just in case the issues aren't where you think they are. So that's all I'm saying is do we have it on our radar to say, you know, we're going to be looking at some different options. So basically the city isn't hamstringed by one company to have options on the table. Because I know JAC, we pretty much is a homegrown company. The city gave JAC that opportunity, and that's how they became what they are now. And just some people feel like they're a little too far stretched in the same community to concentrate on just our facilities. So with that being said, it's like, how do we focus in on just our main facilities with a company that's dealing with so many other facilities? And I agree with you. JC has done a great job of managing our facilities, brought great acts, not necessarily for the entirety of the community of Youngstown, but they have brought in acts that have created the atmosphere where they don't lose money for the city. So I guess that's it on that. We can move on to Chapter 548.05, Unlawful Discrimination in Housing Practices. Ms. Mary Krupa.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. A while back, the Youngstown Renters Association presented 3 proposed requests to this ordinance, little tweaks that could make it better for a renter in the city of Youngstown. And it was, they were received favorably by the committee. And so it's been a while. So why I'm here today is partly because you suggested get on the agenda, but mainly what's the status of these proposed tweaks to the amendment? Supposedly they were in the law department back then.
So I know this is something Councilman Ray was working closely with. Does the law department have an update?
Through the chair,
Fritz?
your efficient clerk was able to give you the minutes to that meeting that happened over 2 years ago. There was no real direction from the committee on what they were supposed to do. It was presented, it was out there was some discussion, but it was never sent down to law, either orally or directly saying, hey, what are the options and what else do we have out there? I did take a little liberty of doing some research as I got the information. Like I said, once this was on the agenda, I went first to find out what happened. There's some discussion, as I said, that it's there, seems like a good idea, but never got directed to the law departments. So the first time we found out about it was just probably a week or so ago. Based on that, I did some basic research. If council wants to, I can do further research. I do know there's some lawsuits claiming some of the things they're asking is unconstitutional. Doesn't mean it is. I'm just saying there's lawsuits out there. So there are some potential liabilities by just putting it out there. Again, this is basic research that I did, not in depth because I wanted direction before I did anything more.
Ms. Krupa, you want to go in a little bit on how these practices would be beneficial for the city of Youngstown and the citizens?
Well, there were 3 items, and one of them was the source of income, so that a potential tenant, when they're filling out their paperwork, lists their income. And so we wanted to include non-traditional sources rather than just a paycheck type thing. Non-traditional sources like housing choice vouchers, public assistance, emergency rental assistance, veterans benefits, social security, supplemental security income, or other retirement income. So that's all income. I mean, it's income, so it should be counted is what we feel. The most common denial is against those who are receiving the housing choice vouchers. And then we had presented at that time ordinances from Athens, Akron, Cincinnati, and Bexley in Ohio that had passed this sort of thing. So that was one of the issues. And the other one was that payment of utilities that this one I wasn't really as familiar with, but someone else presented this, but the utilities need to be either in the landlord's name or the tenant's name. So it has to be, one or the other. It can't be just, and also to have, if it's in the landlord's name, then they need to produce a utility statement so that the tenant can see exactly what they're being charged and why, because it would be on the statement. And, okay, so that one, I know the city of Cleveland has adopted that ordinance, but like I said, I'm not totally familiar with the background on that one. The third one was, just issuing, receipts when you pay your rent or your security deposit. So, I mean, that's kind of like common business practice.
So Chris, these are things that are already in our statutes.
They are not, what we create is a whole new protected group. Not people that, the sorts of income groups. So you're creating some other additional liability. We do not have that. We have the standard protected groups. Race, color, creed, sexual orientation, those things are all in there, not income. The renters one, there was some discussion at the minutes, if I may. There was some concern that there was criminal, if you didn't give it a receipt, it'd be criminal. And there were some discussions of the committee at that time saying, well, we're not really excited about that one. They wanted some information potentially on the source of income protections. And the third one she had mentioned, I'm sorry.
Rentals.
Oh, it was the rentals. There was no real discussion on that as far as the minutes before.
Okay, so you got anything on this, Pat? So what I would like to see as a directive is the law department go back, research this, see what we can bring up as actual legislation to add to our current statutes when it comes to non-discriminatory actions.
Will do.
Can we have that by next CPED meeting?
Certainly.
Thank you. Anything else, Ms. Krupa?
No, thank you.
Okay, under miscellaneous, we'll have attorney. Did you want to present something?
Yeah, just two quick things if I may.
Do Mr. Kitchen under miscellaneous first.
Yeah, the first one is you all, I don't know if you have a copy of the CDBG. We're not gonna go into it today, but we reached out to council. We haven't heard back from you all, but wanted to put a gentle reminder out there that we need to have this allocation. I don't know if I'm using the right words, Beverly.
You're correct.
Oh, okay. But we need this as time sensitive. We want to have this passed by the June 3rd meeting if possible. But this is the recommendations of the recipients that they're
We do this a little
recommending.
differently.
Sorry, pardon me?
We do this a little differently.
Well, you all have the package already with the applications, that was already sent to you. I'm just giving you the Excel version, the condensed version. Again, this is just a reminder that we can have another meeting, schedule a meeting or discuss this, but we would like to do that.
You said by June 3rd.
So we can have it on the first meeting in June, right?
Yes, sir.
Or is it the 9th? Oh,
So usually we have a meeting to go over each item first and basically like kind of like a grade scale or Ms. Hosey, do you want to?
just real quick for the record, is June 3rd is the first Wednesday in June. June 9th is the second Tuesday. So I'm talking about the council meeting, not the CPED meeting.
Right, so this could be like a little bit of a lengthy project. So do we want to schedule a meeting to go over this specifically first?
That's what.
Chair, the only thing that I really want to stress is that there's a new administration in Washington. And they have put out some very odd, different rules that we can't fool with this. We have to get some answers and get it in or else we'll lose our funding.
Yeah, I understand that, but this isn't usually the way we
But
do
through
it.
the chair, we did send the usual copies up to council to review. We have sent that. I think it's been maybe like 3 weeks
So
ago.
do we want to request a special meeting to specifically go over each item?
Through the chair, yes. Let's schedule a meeting. Let's go through the process, however council sees fit. Our goal is to meet the deadline. So whatever that looks like for you in terms of scheduling a meeting, we can do a council as a whole. I don't know if you want to do a special CPED.
Usually it's just the CPED committee.
Okay.
So, we just send the email, I guess, with all three of us, I guess with
It goes to the entire council because this is the CDBG budget.
Right.
So, we're trying to do something before, did he say June 3rd
Yeah, I guess we would need a meeting as soon as possible.
for this item specifically?
Yes, ma'am.
I can send something out, so the quicker you all respond specifically, the CPED committee, we can go with that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And then the second thing, under miscellaneous, real quick. You all know we made some changes to the at-home program of the ARP funds to allow more people to participate, but just one of the things that wanted to present to you all, once a person closes on a home, Erica wants to show with our team what they came up with to deliver to the new homeowners, welcome them to the city of Youngstown. So turn it over to Erica and her team.
Savory's?
How you, to the chair. What we wanted to do is just show you how we are doing with our resident engagement in the Community Development Division of the CPED. And so, as you know, as of last week's date, we have sold 234 homes in the city of Youngstown. I think we need a round of applause for that. So many times we get that bad thing, but it's a good thing. And people are coming back and we are buying houses and they are buying our older housing stock too. So good job. You have a good job. I think we want to continue and we need to make sure we market ourselves. We got new innovative people coming here. People are going to need new jobs and they're going to need houses. So what we do here in this part that I'm part of, what we have done for our home buyers, just through the at-home program, we give them a letter from the city, just thanking them. We give them this part right here, how to get things done in the city. And then on behalf of the health department has given them a food thermometer, teaspoons, a measuring set, a refrigerator magnet, and then there's something about the health department. And then one of the big things we have is here. They all get a welcome mat from the city of Youngstown.
Oh, that's nice.
Upside down.
That's nice.
Nice.
So that's it.
Nice.
So I just want to say welcome to our new residents in the city of Youngstown.
Sweet.
So Dawn and myself, we actually go deliver these to the properties. Dawn is the housing specialist. So she and I makes that personal stop to each one of the houses. We're not done yet, but we have started to visit out these 234 homes and the numbers are continuing.
Savory, I know you definitely take this job personal. So I appreciate all your hard work and the team that works with you for getting these new residents into the city of Youngstown. I think everybody should be very happy to know that the city is once again growing.
Yes.
So I appreciate you guys' work. Thank you.
Thank you.
To say, work hard.
Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so we're done. Thank you.
It's over.
Attorney Jeff, you wanted to go over historic downtown preservation laws?
Yeah, if I might, I wanted to suggest we create a downtown national historic tax district. By way of some background, Councilman Alderman, when we first started, you talked about the entertainment district. My business partner, Brad Schwartz, and I have been involved in downtown Youngstown since 2003. We purchased the property at 124 West Federal Street when everything was pretty much boarded up down here. We were actively involved in what was called YADA back then, the Youngstown Arts and Entertainment District Association, that brought 15 liquor licenses to downtown Youngstown. Imbibe Martini Bar, which we invested in, got the first one. Rise Craft Beer Whiskey Bar, which is on the second floor of that building, got the last one. We're committed to reinvesting down here. We own 3 buildings now, 124 West Federal Street, 122 West Federal Street, which we are currently undergoing some renovations after having the interior of the building demolished by a tenant who then vacated. But we purchased 130 West Federal Street. Brad and I are seeking to renovate this 4-story structure. We're seeking to diversify and go out of the realm of just pure entertainment. What we're realizing is that the businesses down here, there is a sweet spot for a different variety of businesses. Those are often the businesses that are coming out of the YBI that have now exceeded the square footage that they need. They usually need around 2,500 square feet. we're uniquely situated for that because we have 4 stories of that. And there are a lot of buildings downtown that can fit that mold. There is a lot of buildings down here that will qualify on the historic tax credit. If the buildings want to qualify for any type of funding, there's very limited funding that's out there now. A lot of the initiative programs are no longer around. With Lake to River, there are programs that are available, but they're very limited. For example, some of the programs that where you can apply for funding for infrastructure and whatnot are 1 a year per city. So 1 project per city, and that's it. And there's no applications until those are completed, which is very limiting. Also, the owner of the building has to occupy 50% of it to qualify for any kind of that fund, which fortunately for us, we have 4 businesses down here, my business partner and I, that can occupy 2 of the 4 floors if we needed them to. But not everybody who wants to invest in downtown Youngstown would have the ability to do that and qualify for any of the funding that Lake to River and some of the government agencies provide. But there is another opportunity, and that is through the National Historic Tax Credits. The National Historic Tax Credits, you can form a district, and that would qualify all of the buildings in the downtown Youngstown area for that district. Besides some of the perceptions that people might have, that does not create under any circumstances any limits on the use of the property. If you want to demolish your property, you can. You want to renovate it outside of the historic tax district, you certainly can. There's no obligation to do this under the historic tax credits. However, if the city creates this district, it then gives the business owners an opportunity to apply for federal and state tax credits. To make that math easy, these are qualified expenditures. Qualified expenditures do not include acquisition cost, site work, and what they call FFE, that's furniture, fixtures, and equipment. Outside of that, it does qualify. So you can take properties in downtown Youngstown, almost all of which would qualify. I believe there's 39 of them that would qualify. Right now, I think there is 18 that are currently on the National Historic Tax Register, but there's an additional 39 downtown that can qualify and be helped by this district. That would allow the owners to have the option to apply for historic tax credits. And that would mean that the state of Ohio can pay for up to 35%, they can provide tax credits for up to 35% of the qualified expenditures. The federal government can then provide 20% tax credits for the qualified expenditures. So that means you can get up to 55% of tax credits back on your qualified expenditures. So to make that easy math, if it's $1 million project, you can get $550,000 in qualified tax credits. That is used to offset your taxes later on, but there's also a market for it. There are many companies that will purchase those at about 80 cents on the dollar. So if you had $500,000 in qualified tax credits, you can sell those probably for $400,000 in liquid cash and use those to then renovate your property now. So it creates a ready-made market for the businesses. The reason why the historic tax district is important is because to get your property on the historic tax register and to qualify for these, the expenditure to have somebody do that for you, and you have to have somebody do it for you because it's very, very difficult, is somewhere in the $15,000 range. So right off the bat, you have to hire a company to do this. You have to have the accounting, the legal, the architectural, and the plans have to be qualified. And there's a lot of restrictions as you're doing that if you don't follow them, you're going to lose the tax credits. So what happens though is if you allow this National Historic Tax District to be created, that allows for those funds to be paid for through the district itself. It also allows for the city to contribute to help us, which we would certainly appreciate if we could. And that would allow the businesses to alleviate the cost of having to apply for that tax district up front. And it would also eliminate the time period. The time period, we're going to do this no matter what. So we're going to invest this money when we do this at 130 West Federal Street. But for us to do it on our own, it's probably additional 6 to 7 months of sitting time for us to do it because of all we have to do to get the buildings put on the historic tax district. And for us to be able to do all the applications and everything that we need. If the city were able to designate the downtown as the National Historic Tax District area, that would eliminate almost 6 to 7 months of waiting time which is tax revenue for the business. It also keeps us from losing some of these businesses. We've had businesses come into the Youngstown Airport area. I think Kimberly Clark is one that had come through. You have businesses like Backset that have been coming out of the YBI that need additional space quickly. And the risk of losing them 6 or 7 months down the road is a very real risk.
Yeah, we
So
definitely all want a cash infusion in the downtown and some help from, state and federal government. I think Stephanie brought this to us before. The situation was, which I think you just explained, whether or not it was beneficial or not beneficial for everyone involved. I think that's what we are looking for. So are you saying if downtown was designated a historic district, that if I want to modernize my building, I wouldn't get any type of penalty for doing that because I'm in the district?
No penalty whatsoever.
So-
It's an opt-in, not an opt-out. So we feel that way too. So back when we were renovating 122 West Federal Street, which previously housed O'Donnell's, there was a car-sized hole in the roof when we purchased the building. And that rotted out the second floor and then rotted out the bottom of the first floor. So we are very much concerned. We thought about doing national historic tax credits and we were wrong. We thought that if we did it, then we would have these limitations and there was too much gone in the building. So we opted to do it with our own cash and we essentially gutted the building out. There's one point you could stand in the basement and Brad and I could look up and see the clear blue sky if we wanted to from everything we tore out. But for us now, in the situation that we have now, we don't want restrictions, we want opportunities. So we would never ask for something to be implemented that would restrict business owners in their ability to do what they want in their business and with their buildings. So if you have a business that's in the downtown and you're in a national historic tax credit and you decide you don't want to apply for tax credits, you can tear the building down, you could rip a hole in it, you could put a new floor on, you can do whatever you want. There's no restrictions. If you opt in to apply for a tax credit, that's when these restrictions would then come down upon you for the federal and state governments.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff, because I know you can go. You truly are an attorney. Stephanie, Kyle, Adam, are we prepared to do anything like this? Have we looked into it? Or what would it require for us? Because it sounds like it's something that could be definitely beneficial for those that own properties and are trying to improve downtown.
Through the chair, as you stated, I think we talked about this about 2 years ago. And the pushback we had from a lot of the business owners was the impact of their business and actually doing what they wanted to do. So right now, I think it's just a conversation piece. I think it's always good to offer that because like Jeff said, it saves them a lot of time and energy when it comes to, as you know, most of our developers here now have already been awarded tax credits and are going for even more dollars because more dollars became available this year. But again, it is very tricky and it's an educational piece. And I feel like we need to educate the business owners who would want to take advantage because it is costly. And so the biggest thing for the city is we have to cough up dollars to become a historical district. So what does that look like to the city as far as, is it worth it? When it comes to the number of businesses that will want to participate versus, because we would need to hire in a consultant and then there's some other fees associated with it. So.
We have a dollar amount?
No, not anymore. I believe the last dollar amount I presented to you all might have been about 50,000 for consulting fees and then whatever else comes with that. But again, that was a couple years ago in, inflation.
This is something that I'm saying from memory, and I'm not certain that everything I'm saying is correct here.
Hold on. Was she done, Stephanie?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was trying to finish with her too. Like I was trying to compliment you on what you were saying, Stephanie. So the cost for the business is $15,000 to $16,000 to do it, but I believe if the city were to form the district, those costs can be reduced by several $1,000s, maybe closer to the $10,000 to $12,000 range per business, which is the applicants would ask the city to help contribute because it's in the district. But I also believe there's programs that can actually help get some federal or state funding to the city to help offset that.
You said per business?
I think it's per business, yes, for them to do it, per applicant. But if you look at that, you're talking about 39 properties maximum in the entire downtown district. So it's not like everybody's going to apply for it to begin with. But for the business to apply privately, it's 15 to 16,000. It can, if the city were to apply for it, that can then be dramatically reduced on the city side. I don't know the exact numbers on that, but I believe it shaves off several $1,000s. And then there's also an opportunity for the state and the federal government to reimburse the city or offset some of those. Heather Rudge is the individual who knows the most about that. She's with, I think it's HB Group. She can certainly shed some light on that in a future meeting. But I would certainly like to get this on the city's radar.
Oh, well, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. Hal, does this seem like something feasible for us?
Through the chair, we will talk internally. If the mayor wants to support this, I'm sure that we will be able to find funds to move this ahead. So,
Mayor?
I've dealt with who he mentioned, Heather Rudge, in my own property in the downtown. So Historic Preservation Group out of Cleveland. She's ready to give a presentation to us that gives us a little more insight. So I think it is truly an exciting opportunity because you have business owners here bringing it to us, telling us they want to make additional investments. But again, evaluating of those 39 folks, how many are willing to come to the table, how many have a development project opportunity, and again, confirming whether or not we can educate these business owners with real documentation that says this is a opt-in, this is not a penalty, and being very clear too in my own process with it that even within those restrictions, there is still wiggle room and movement. So I think this takes a lot of educating because you think you can't tamper with a door, but if you can create a just cause that supports the historical preservation of a building, yeah, you then can touch a door. My windows were an example of that. They were the original windows in a 150-year-old building, but they were a structural component that needed to be adjusted so that the preservation of that building went on. And so I know that for myself. Jeff knows it very thoroughly, but I think those 39 businesses are going to have to know it because we're going to need their support. If the city goes out to make this type of investment, we're going to need to know, again, that everything has a return on investment. If there's only a few folks, we've got to weigh that cost. So I think we're prepared to have the discussions go a lot deeper in order to really move it along. Because a blanketed historical approach would be a lot more simple than onesie twosie. We've got to gauge interest of these other business owners that are out there.
Okay, so I guess you'll need some time before the city will be able to bring this back to CPED.
I'm
Through the chair, yes, we'll collaborate with Heather Rudge to see what we could do internally and then probably come back to you all with the
I think she's trying to make
presentation
it to the June.
to the June meeting. If that's okay, we could put her on the agenda for June.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
I guess the only thing we need to do is move ordinance 26-121. So I'll make a motion to move ordinance 26-121 to the council for consideration of passage.
Second. Second.
I think that's the only actual item we needed to take action on, and there's nothing else. We can stay a little longer if you guys like. Motion to adjourn. Second. Adjourned at 4:00.